I'd like to tell you, um, I'd like to tell you about one of the human rights defenders who really so inspired me. Her name is Digna Ochoa. And Digna Ochoa was one of the leading human rights defenders in Mexico. And she was a woman, and she was an Indian, and she was a nun. And I asked her why she became involved in human rights, and she explained that she came from a very small Indian village and that her father was a union organizer. And every time he would organize a strike at the local factory, the owner of the factory would call the police, and they'd go down and pick him up and pick up 4 or 5 of his colleagues and torture them, throw them in jail. And she said, as a result, throughout my childhood, I often didn't see my father for months or even years, and there was no lawyer we could call who would be willing to take our case. So I wanted to become a lawyer. And I asked her how a typical human rights case works. And she said, well, I'll tell you an example. A few weeks ago, a woman came to my office, and she said that her husband had been disappeared. So she heard a rumor that the husband was being held at a military hospital not far away. So Digna said, I went to the military hospital, but they wouldn't let me in. So she said she waited outside until there was a shift change. And as the shift change was going on, she walked past the guards. And she said she walked up to the second floor, and she saw a nurse standing outside one of the doors. And so she walked up to the nurse, and she said, I'm going in there. And the nurse said, you can't go in there. I can't even go in there. The desaparecido is in there. The disappeared guy is in there. So Digna said, this is great. Now I know where he is. And she said to the nurse, here's my card. If anything happens to me, you call this number. So she said she was terrified because she knew on the other side of that door would not only be her potential client, but also some of the people who had beaten him so badly he had to be hospitalized. And she said, she opened the door, and she said, with all the authority I could muster, I said to them, you get out of here right now. This is my client, and I'm his lawyer, and I get 5 minutes alone with him. And they left. So she said, she explained who she was. She was signed up as the lawyer, so now she could go get a habeas corpus decree from a judge. And she started walking back down the hall, feeling very happy about this. And all of a sudden, around the corner, came 2 of the guards. And I said, what did you do? She said, I didn't know what to do, so I just assumed the attack position. She said, I don't know karate. I think that I saw it in the movie somewhere. And the guard said, you're going to attack us. And she said, take it any way you please. And they were so stunned to see this Indian and this nun and this woman in the attack position against them that they sort of turned around in confusion and left. And it gave her a chance to escape. And I asked her afterwards to reflect on that moment. And I said to her, Digna, where does that power to confront that come from? Is it something you're born with? Is it something we can teach our children? Where is it from? And you know, I don't know what I was expecting. I think I was expecting her to say something about love or Jesus or reconciliation. But what she said instead really surprised me. She said, you know, I'm just so angry. I'm so angry when I think about what these people have done to me, to my family, to my country. And I gather up all that outrage, and that gives me this incredible sense of calm with which I can confront anyone. And I think what Digna was trying to say to all of us is that we have to be outraged when we see injustice. And it reminded me of the ancient pyramids that you know, that were built by slaves, and on them is graffiti that says, "No one was angry enough to speak out." And so we have to be angry enough to speak out when we see something that's not fair in our world.